Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us on Newsnight. We're continuing our conversation on the autonomy of the local government. And joining us in the studio is Arise analyst Mahmoud Jega. Thank you so much for joining us. Good to see you.
Thank you.
I'm sure you listened to all what Ambali Hakim Olatunji, the president of Norge, had to say. Well, they're pleading with the president to intervene somewhat to ensure the local government is able to carry out its constitutionally provided responsibilities. What do you make of that? The fact that the local government employees have to beg and plead, let us do our job.
I listened to him. Very eloquent man. What he said was very true. The local governments are the institutional sick babies of the Fourth Republic. It is the tier of government that is least living up to its responsibilities. And there are many reasons for that. As he explained, there is a lot of lacuna in the constitution which has allowed state governments in particular to exploit the situation to their own. The resources that are allocated to local governments in the federation account are only slightly less, collectively, than those that go to state governments. So unfortunately, state governors are envious of those resources. That's my own observation since the beginning of this republic. So they use all kinds of methods to snatch those funds. And one of the methods they used was political, not to hold local government elections. There was a state that did not hold local government elections for 13 years in this republic, Anambra State, at one point, and many other states for many years. But since then, pressure has forced them to be holding the local government elections more regularly. But it is still a sham. Because as the chairman said, almost every state that holds local government elections conducted by the state independent electoral commissions, the political party in power at the state level will win everything. All the chairmanships and really it is imposition by the governors. And that renders the elected officials of the local government unable to insist on their rights. Actually, the governors prefer a system where local government is run by caretaker, chairmen, and administrators and all that, because those ones are not in a position to demand anything. I mean, you are just put there. It's not people that put you. And even the ones that go through the elections, normally they were all anointed people. There are other problems. The local governments, they don't have a lot of executive capacity from what we can observe. And also the weakness of civil society groups and the media at the local level, because it's a very important factor in check and balance and ensuring transparency. But like at the federal level, the media is very strong, civil society organizations, trade unions, they are all very strong. At the state level, less so, but still a bit so, especially in the more urban states. But at the local levels, there's almost no media. Now, sometimes there is social media, and there are no civil society organizations, the lawyers are not there and everything. So it makes for a lot of institutional weakness.
Okay, then from what you've said, then one can deduce that the way these local government officers and officials are elected, these public office holders at the local government level are elected, could be faulty. That's where the problem comes from. How then can they enforce their autonomy? How can they snatch themselves from the aprons of these state governors?
It's a big problem. Many people have been advocating in the last few years that we should take away the power to conduct local government elections from the state independent electoral commissions and vest it in the independent national electoral commission as a practical matter, because otherwise it is not ideal. It is not ideal. We would have loved a situation where we devolve more power from the federal level to state and local levels, and allowing the states to conduct their local government elections would have been the way to go. It is the ideal, but it is not working. It is not working. From everything we have observed since the beginning of this republic, it is not working. And it is really the first step in correcting the institutional weaknesses that we are observing now. Then the money one. You see, the creation of the local government joint account in the constitution, as the chairman explained, was well intentioned. That, okay, all the money meant for the local governments in this state, put them in the state local government joint account. Then the state government puts 10% of its own internally generated revenue into the same account, and then the state assembly will pass a law as to the sharing formula. So that was the intention, but it didn't work like that. It didn't. Instead, what you have is that, as was shown in many cases, the commissioner for local government will raise a memo to the governor and say the local government chairmen have all agreed to purchase ambulances or sewage vehicles or any other thing, and then the governor will now appoint the contractor and approve, and then the local governments themselves have no control over this. Sometimes the ambulances will come, sometimes they will not come, and they are not in a position to talk. So the whole thing was bastardized.
In other words, they have to beg their way through.
They have
to. And, you know, is it safe to really say that the governors are the very cog in the wheel of progress? We asked the president earlier, you know, what he felt about that video. Really embarrassing video where you had those local government chairmen bowing or begging.
You know,
yes,
the problems are interconnected because in most cases governors are in full control of the ruling parties at the state level.
Is that sorry, I will let you land on that. Is that where President Tinubu has to intervene? Because they are asking him to intervene.
The intervention has to be to correct the lacunas in the constitution. But don't forget, previous administrations managed to get a constitutional amendment passed through the National Assembly with a 2/3 majority to ensure the autonomy of the local governments. And the state governors prevailed on most of the state assemblies not to pass the amendments. Not only for to autonomy of local government, but even the autonomy of the state assemblies themselves. They rejected it under pressure from state governors. So it's essentially a political problem that we have. But the president, as the leader of the whole country, is the one who should take the step really in correcting all this anomalies.
You were going to respond to that video. You were going to make comments about that.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised because really, in most, if not all states, whoever gets to become a local government chairman or councillor must have been anointed by the state governor. In most states, that is the case.
That begs the question, because then if you say it's from the party structure, from what you've said, do we need a total overhaul of the party structures and the running systems and funding of these parties? Because if the governor is funding a political party in a state, then we cannot blame him if he wants to take control.
That is exactly what happens. The system of the political parties itself is faulty. But that one is probably due to the social condition of Nigeria, not so much the constitution. It is easier probably to amend the laws in relation to local governments than to try to restructure the political parties.
But the fact remains that two states, Rivers and Jega, have been able to grant local governments autonomy. If those two states can do it, why can't the others?
That is true. Well, it's a very important question. As the chairman said, Rivers State, maybe because the state government itself is awash in money, even though that is not the reason. If the governor wants whatever money he has, he still wants more. Jigawa State, which is a relatively poor state, was still able under the former governor to ensure this autonomy. So what you said is very true. If these two states can do it, why can't all the others do it, including the FCT?
Thank you very much indeed, Mahmoud Jega, Rise analyst. We appreciate your insights on Newsnight.